Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I've got the great honour of going after fantastic Parisian lunch, which I think is very, very high quality, so thanks. My name is Dan Morgan. I'm the Senior Government Affairs Director for Europe and APAC at SecurityScorecard. We're a cyber risk ratings company. We're headquartered in New York, but we have offices in Europe, in Luxembourg, UK, Australia, Japan, Australia, and Dubai. Delighted to be here at the Paris Cyber Summit to discuss how we think cyber risk ratings could be the KPI we need in regulation. Huge thanks to Sebastian for organising a fantastic event and inviting me and SecurityScorecard to present. I've learned a huge amount today. My background is financial services, and this is a tremendous learning curve for me, and it's been a fantastic experience, so thank you. So our mission at SecurityScorecard to make the world a safer place, as it is for many others here today. As pioneers in the cyber risk ratings market, we measure the cyber resilience of companies worldwide. So this could be SMEs, it could be government departments, akin to how credit scores and financial risks are evaluated. Our cyber risk ratings empower organizations with actionable, precise evaluations of their cybersecurity posture. And over the 10 years we're in operation, our data has shown those with a bad score are 7 times more likely to suffer a data breach than those with a good score. Any company, entity worldwide can view its score and has the opportunity to fix, remediate any concerns free of charge. So as I said, we launched just over 10 years ago. We now continuously scan across the internet 12 million entities and growing every single day. We're relied on by 70% of the Fortune 1000 companies, and 9 of the top 10 global banks use our platform, as well as pharmaceutical companies and tech companies. We're also used by critical government infrastructure and regulatory agencies, such as the New York Department for Financial Services. They use our platform to regulate the 30,000 financial entities in the state of New York. So, for me, cyber risk ratings is no longer a nice to have, but a must have. We're all aware that we're navigating through an unprecedented era of digital transformation, and this was a little bit of a cliche, I think, many times spoken about in conferences. But this time last year, I don't think anyone was expecting the impact of large language models and AI, which has been transformational in a really short space of time. So we're all aware there's a huge amount of opportunities, but it's also marked by a lot of challenges, and a lot of these challenges are cybersecurity risks. They can cause economic turmoil, disrupt public safety, and undermine our trust in digital infrastructure. And business leaders, they also recognize the need for action and see policy and regulation as a positive tool. The 2023 World Economic Forum Cyber Survey shows that executives now see regulation as an effective tool for reducing cyber risk. So it's not about the private sector pushing back on regulation as a whole. And policymakers worldwide are responding, perhaps too much, but they are responding. They're developing and implementing measures that are strengthening cyber resilience. And a couple of key ones to mention from the European Union are NIS2, which we've heard a lot about at this conference. And the other one that I'm going to mention today is DORA, Digital Operational Resilience Act in financial services. NIS2 is aimed at boosting the overall level of cybersecurity in the EU and expanding into further sectors harmonized at the EU level. Whereas DORA is focused on financial groups accountable for the security of their tech vendors. These regulatory efforts differ from before because they seek to address vulnerabilities in the digital supply chain. And we think this is a good idea. ENISA recognized in 2021 that organizations could be vulnerable to a supply chain attack even when their defenses are good in one of their reports. But our research earlier this year found that 98% of organizations have a vendor relationship with at least one third party that's experienced a breach in the last 2 years. The study also found that 50% of organizations have an indirect relationship with at least 200 breached fourth-party vendors in the last 2 years. Back in the UK, where I'm from, just this week, British Airways, the BBC, and the retailer Boots said their staff were amongst those hit by an attack on a company called Zelis, a payroll provider used by hundreds of companies across Britain. And Zelis said their incident occurred via one of their third parties called MoveIt. This incident was investigated by our threat intelligence team, which identified over 2,500 MOVEit servers across 790 organizations using the platform, several hundred of which exhibited the specific vulnerability. MOVEit has since obviously released updates to rectify the vulnerability, but the incident serves as a reminder of the need for continuous and proactive measures in cybersecurity, particularly when it comes to third-party vendor risk management. In this interconnected digital world, cyber health is only as strong as your weakest link. And cyber criminals are explicitly exploiting vulnerabilities within the supply chain to orchestrate large-scale attacks, just like we've seen with BA and Boots. Boots also said in their response that the hack had included some of its employees' personal details. And this is not a surprise. Data from ANISA shows that 58% of supply chain incidents targeted customer data, including PII. And as I said before, our data shows that those with a bad score are 7 times more likely to suffer a data breach than those with a good score. So this is where cyber risk ratings come in, illuminating these hidden weak points and enabling businesses to manage, reduce, and ultimately eliminate these risks. So how do they work? So the SecurityScorecard platform uses open source, public threat feeds, and non-intrusive data collection. So to reiterate, we see what the hacker sees, but it's open source and non-intrusive. We continuously scan the internet with a global network of sensors looking for over 100 different risk signals, from DNS health, IP reputation, web application security, network security, hacker chatter, endpoint security, patching cadence, misconfigured TLS, known malware, and many more. And at the end, we give a score from A to F, or 1 to 100. It's easy to understand and helps translate cyber risk into a language we all understand. So what is it used for today? Enterprise risk management, i.e. self-monitor to improve your own organization's security posture. Third-party risk management is a key use case where you can manage your business ecosystem. This is going to be key for DORA and NIS2. Cyber M&A, due diligence for any acquisition targets. Of course, a key one as well is executive-level board reporting, translating the language of the CISO into the board when you're particularly looking for funding for cyber. Regulatory oversight. The New York Department for Financial Services, as I've said, use it to monitor financial services companies in the state of New York, and regulatory compliance. So those that are being regulated will need to ensure that they can report in a timely manner. It's also used by the cyber insurance industry for underwriting cyber risk. So these ratings are more than just scores. They're critical decision-making tools. They help organizations, entities, SMEs identify weaknesses in their cyber defenses and their supply chains. They're also a way of translating a complex cyber picture in one that can be understood by the boardroom and regulators. We're not alone in recognizing the need for KPIs in cybersecurity. And we're also not alone in seeing cyber scores as a useful regulatory tool. It's great to be here in Paris at the moment, because the French government is introducing something called the Cyber Score Law, which is the first global mandate for using cyber scores. This will introduce a cybersecurity certification for public digital platforms. And we think this is a step forward, although it's not perfect. We believe there could be an explicit call within this for the inclusion of a tool, a cyber risk rating tool, within the score model. We also think more firms could be included, particularly in the supply chain, as we've seen the recent attacks in the UK. The score should also be real-time and not a one-time audit, but we do think it's a leading example, potentially, for other EU policymakers who could introduce a similar model akin to the French model. A unified, region-wide system would ensure a set, agreed third-party KPIs for EU cyber regulation, particularly in NIS2 and DORA, an agreed taxonomy, and a shared responsibility in digital ecosystem. An excellent place to start will be NIS2. Like DORA, NIS2 directive requires organizations to assess the security of their supply chains and ensure their suppliers are also taking appropriate measures to protect against cyber threats. Given this directive is already now being implemented at member state level, local regulators, member state competent authorities will need the tools and data to understand supply chain risk. So are cyber risk scores a way of producing valuable KPIs? I think so. Now, let's shift to the financial sector. This sector increasingly relies on third-party tech vendors. The loss of a single node in this interconnected web could lead to systemic disruptions. This was highlighted recently in the US when the CFTC postponed the publication of the weekly Commitments of Traders report due to a cyber attack on a third-party ion-cleared derivatives. This attack impacted a huge market with over 1 trillion of commodity interest rate futures open at the time of the attack. This risk level is unacceptable in systemically important critical financial services. Cyber risk has transitioned from an operational risk to a systemic risk within this sector. So, DORA in this context is a positive step towards ensuring digital resilience. One of the key pillars of DORA is third-party risk management. DORA holds financial groups accountable for the security of their tech vendors. Applying cyber risk ratings in this scenario provides an efficient solution to identify, assess, and manage these third-party risks. Cyber risk rating can also support reporting requirements for DORA, which requires detailed reports containing number of users affected, duration, geographical spread, data loss, severity of impact, criticality of services, economic impact, all for your third-party providers. Real-time tools will need to be provided by both market participants and member state regulators. So let's drill down a little further on the insurance industry. The insurance industry already uses cyber risk ratings to evaluate the risk of a cyber attack and determine appropriate coverage pricing. Integrating this tool into DORA compliance, we think, is a logical progression. We would call on the IOPA, the European Insurance and Occupational Pensions Authority, to consider including risk ratings within their technical standards, which they're looking at this very moment. IOPA can set standards that provide detailed guidelines that insurers must follow to comply with DORA. So, can cyber risk ratings aid efforts to comply with regulations and boost our digital resilience? I think so. So in conclusion, we find ourselves at a regulatory and digital crossroads. The decisions we make now will shape the future of cybersecurity and cybersecurity regulation. I say let's be proactive, and I'll leave you with 3 things. DORA is being consulted on now at the technical standard level. NIS2 is being implemented at member states. Let's think about the tools needed both for regulators and market participants to ensure compliance. As we're here in France, I encourage to expand out the cyber score law to the supply chain and encourage real-time scores, not one-time audits. And I encourage you all here to check your own scores and the scores of the companies and organizations you interact with every day. Thanks for your time and attention. I'm eager to explore these discussions further during the summit, and I'm going to hand over to the panel. Thanks a lot.